You talked about what happened with Justin Fields. What I'm curious about is how did you go about building that relationship back when at least publicly it looked like it was you versus him?
I think the best thing, the way you build relationships back like that, especially with type A individuals, is to be able to let them know why you did what you did. And I think once people had a conversation with me and they recognized I did what I did is because I truly looked at all of our student athletes, that they were a son or daughter of mine. And I wanted to make sure that they were safe. And I'm not a doctor, and I followed the guidance of our medical personnel. So it wasn't anything personal. I mean, the easy thing for me to do would have been to say, let's ignore the medical issues and just go and play. But so I think the more difficult decision was to do what I did, and that was to say, until we gather more information, let's take the safer approach. And then once we gather information, let's go back and play, which we did. And I think one of the things that a lot of people have written about is even with all that, that Ohio State still played in the national championship against Alabama.
You said that Chicago is the best NFL football city in the country. Why do you think?
Bar none.
Why?
Well, I think it's a combination of it. I mean, when you think of a franchise that's over 100 years old, one of the founding members of the NFL, that to have the owner still living at 100 years old, and for her to be able to tie back to George Halas, he's by far the most passionate, most educated, most supportive fans that we have. And then the beautiful nature of Illinois, the state of Illinois, the city of Chicago, the surrounding suburbs, the tradition. Chicago loves their sports heroes. So when you add all that up, especially where it's located, is spectacular. And so that's why I believe. And the other thing that I love is you look at even they haven't changed the logos on the helmet. I mean, it's the same. And so they're very tradition oriented, and it starts with the fans. And that's the thing that's most exciting about it. This is the best NFL city in the United States of America.
What's the thing about the U.S. Bank Stadium that makes you the most proud that you said, I played a big role in putting this here? What is it about that place that gives you a lot of pride?
Lawrence, I think what gives me the most pride, and I tried to do this, we did it as a team, was to create an environment where you felt as comfortable at U.S. Bank Stadium as you did if you would have stayed home. Because so many times I've been to every NFL stadium. I've been to many NBA stadiums, Major League Baseball, hockey, and a lot of them feel like stadiums, like you're going to there and you kind of just deal with it for the 3 hours. But the thing that was top of mind for us is to create an environment that you actually felt worse that if you stayed home, that we created a familial environment that you would go, that things were comfortable, the food was good, it was easy to get around. You were around your 70,000 plus friends and family, and you would have FOMO if you missed out. So, and that took a lot of thought. And in doing that, we needed to make sure we had multiple ways for people to enjoy the game. Whether it's standing room only, whether you were sitting on benches, in a lounge area, whether you were in a suite, whether you were in the general seats, whatever the case may be. So we did a really good job of making sure that we catered to the diversity of our fan base.
I really enjoyed what you said about detail and about how every line item, every detail matters on the stadium deal, on the media deal. And I agree with you. And with that in mind, I'm curious, for how many years have you committed to the Bears?
I am committed to the Bears. I'm just starting here today. I'm focused. I've always been where my feet are. And especially when you think about what we're trying to accomplish here in Chicago, this is the best job in the NFL. And to be able to work with the McCaskey family, which ties back to the Halas family, to work on a stadium project, to help, rebuild the football enterprise and the business operation with this staff and all of these different things. I mean, I am so excited. And as I said, I'm going to keep approaching this as my first day of my internship, and I'll hopefully that it lasts for many years.
So how long is your actual contractual commitment?
That's something that I think that we haven't I haven't talked about publicly, and it's probably best if I don't. But it's a commitment that I plan on being here for years.
Does it bother you when the criticism of Kevin Warren is that he's ambitious and that he's a climber?
I don't think I would be sitting here today. I hate the opposite of it. Can you imagine if they said he wasn't ambitious and he just kind of happy to lay around or whatever? No. So if that's the worst thing that people will say, from an ambition standpoint, because what that really says is that it's not me ambitious, it's collective ambition, that we're going to push it forward for everyone, involved. And I think people like being around ambitious people. And so kind of I am who I am. I've been this way my entire life. And really what I'm ambitious about is ambitious for the thirst of life. And I'm fortunate, never say lucky, I'm fortunate to be here on earth. And so because of that, when you have a near-death experience, you recognize that it could happen again. And when you recognize a near-death experience could happen again, you don't want to waste any time or moment. So some people will say that's being ambitious. I just say it's really being grateful for another day on this earth.
With everything nice that you've said about Virginia and George McCaskey, how did you carve out your own professional territory that's going to be separate from ownership? In other words, make sure that they are involved without meddling in what you want to do.
I personally don't believe that they will, be involved at a level that will be perceived as too much. I embrace owners. I've always had. I've been so highly favored and blessed. I worked for the first, woman owner, general partner in Georgia Frontiere. Had a very personal relationship with her, and then with the Ford family in Detroit, and then with the Wilf family. They truly are like my blood family. And then to be here. So I think ownership is, they own the team. And the one good thing about it, if you're doing things that can help them to feel good about their ownership of the team, I've never had an issue, with ownership. So I'm ecstatic to be able to work with Miss McCaskey and George and his other siblings and extended family members. And I'm excited, because they've written a check. They've invested their entire life in this. So they want to win as much or more than anyone.
Kevin, you clearly love football, and it is obvious inside of the press conference how much you were talking about what the game day experience and what you want for fans. You were an athlete. You're surrounded by the biggest football conference in America, in the Big Ten. So when it comes to the football operation, how do you envision working with Ryan and making it so that it's both of you all's vision on how the Bears get to being a championship team?
That's a wonderful question. I think that comes with time. When I say time, meaning spending time with each other, the time we've spent together already, I feel it already. We're on the same page. I was in the draft room with him, this morning. We are on the same page. He has attention to detail. He's a hard worker. As I said in the press conference, he's an offensive lineman. He's diligent. No ego. I have no ego. We're going to work together. And to be able to be blessed with an opportunity, can you imagine if you told us as when we were second graders, to say one day you're going to have an opportunity to work at the Chicago Bears? And I think that's how he and I look at it, to be able to come together and win championships and do it the right way. And as I said in the press conference, when they hand out Super Bowl rings and trophies, they all look the same. So I'm excited about him. He's passionate. He is really, really smart, and he's detailed, and he's been around winners. He was at the Chiefs, so he knows what it looks like. So he knows what a draft room and what a roster and what effort and energy looks like. So I'm passionate about him, and I'm passionate about Coach, and I'm looking forward to work with him and build this football department into something that's just powerful and massive.
We're talking with Bears president and CEO Kevin Warren on the Bernstein and Holmes show on Sports Radio 670 The Score. I felt it when you thanked your wife and family for, as you put it, being there for some of my wild thoughts. Now, I know what that means with my relationship with my wife and family. What does that mean when they're the sort of the first sounding board, and what constitutes a wild thought? What are some examples?
Well, I can go back from the beginning. First of all, I thought is like, Greta, I want to be a sports agent. I'm going to go start a sports agency with no line of credit, no clients, no office, no nothing. And I'm going to start in a business that is the highest, other than restaurants, the rate of failure. And she says, okay, so you know what? We'll just live off of my salary. Her salary is what she said. And because you won't, the way you can build it is that you need to make sure you don't take a salary out of your business for the first 3 years. So the only employee that I had was May Davis, who's still with me today. So that's one. And then, and then me taking a job at the Rams and saying, you stay behind with 2 little kids, and I'm going to live in Studio Plus and right next to the facility because I need to put jet fuel on my first 2 years of my career, and then going to Detroit, and then moving back to Phoenix, and then working on the Vikings deal, saying, oh, we're in Paradise Valley, Arizona. Now we're going to move to Minnesota. We don't know anyone to be back in Minnesota, and then to be there. And then we're so comfortable in Minnesota, and then say, oh, by the way, we're going down to college athletics. And then even there, the wild thoughts I had about these TV deals and expansion. And, I'm sitting with her at the Super Bowl last year, said, it's time to go get SC and UCLA. And for her to be there every step of the way, and trust me, she's very vocal. She'll tell me when she thinks stuff makes sense and when things don't make sense. And I appreciate that. And then to come here with the Bears. So I say that in all sincerity. I'm just grateful. And I just think it's another lesson in life of really why your partner will dictate the trajectory of your life. And I was fortunate that the good Lord blessed someone like me with Greta and 2 incredible kids and those who surround me close to be able to do the things that God puts in my heart that may not make sense, but they end up turning out to work.
Kevin, is it fair to say that you and Greta kind of fell in love with the city of Chicago too, and that ends up being like an added bonus of the Big Ten being here and obviously the Bears being here?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I have a nephew. He's my age, but he's my oldest brother's son, who's a lawyer here. We joked at dinner the other night that said Chicago has become our new Phoenix, and that's where we grew up. And so that's what we said. It's our new Phoenix. This is now the new Phoenix. This is headquarters for the Warren family, and we're trying to get, aunts and uncles and cousins and other people to move here. We love this city. We love the fans. We love everything it stands for, the food, the art, the passion, the music. And I just hope and pray that I'm here for many, many, many years into the future.
Last question that I have for you, Kevin. I appreciate you taking the time on a busy day like this. I believe you referred to yourself potentially as a creative solution to the stadium issue. What in your mind needs solving?
I think what needs solving is again, to tell the story. I mean, you can't look at a stadium as a building because it's a building, but you have to look at it, what it really means. What is the economic impact on the state and on the cities and the community? How's it going to help young kids? How's it going to help the football team? What does it mean? And just look at all the positive nature. I mean, you look, US Bank Stadium has really changed the perception of Minneapolis and St. Paul. What does it mean to bring a Super Bowl to Chicago? Chicago deserves a Super Bowl and World Cup games and, NCAA basketball tournament events. So it's much more than a building. If you look at a building as a stadium, it never works. So I will start working diligently on what's the story. If a stadium could stand up and introduce themselves, what would they say? And that's what I'll start working on that. And I'm confident that we'll be able to get done what we need to get done at the appropriate time. It's going to be a lot of work, but it'll be fun.
One more thing from me, Kevin. How do you balance a playing surface at a stadium that might be best for the facility versus what the players want, knowing that there's going to be things that aren't going to be Bears games that are going to be at this new place? How do you go about finding the nexus of making sure that it's safe for players but also durable for everything else you want to do?
One good thing about all the stadiums that have been built recently, I mean, some of them have grass. I mean, look at the stadium in Arizona. They have a turf field that they roll in and out on plates. Some are I'm talking about they have real grass that they roll in and out on plates. Some are turf field. So I'm confident once we get to the point where we're looking at the play-in service, it'll be a happy day for me because that means we've got a stadium that's on the way. That's like picking out the silverware and the place setting for a massive dinner that you're getting ready to throw. And always, we'll put the players' health and safety first. We'll do what's right. And so I'm confident we'll come up with something that works, not only for the players' health and safety, but works, from an overall building standpoint.